This is good. Here. You will hear.
I will hear.
It's working. You turn it off.
Yeah, I think you did.
He's faster.
Who got the blessing?
Huh?
Who got the blessing?
I think we share it, inshallah. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Al-Bukhari has collected the famous hadith on the authority of Umar ibn al-Khattab, in which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, he said, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته إلى الدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. So in this hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, he said what means deeds are judged solely by the intentions behind them. And every person shall receive from his deeds precisely what he intended. So whoever migrated for the sake of Allah and His Messenger, then his migration is for the sake of Allah and His Messenger. And whoever migrated because of some worldly consideration, some worldly commodity he hoped to gain, or some woman he hoped to marry, then his migration is for precisely that reason for which he migrated. So this hadith, it tells us that all of our deeds, the acceptance of those deeds and the reward that we receive for them, depends upon the intention behind them. Why did we do it? What was our motivation? And the greatest deed that any person will perform is dukhulihi fil Islam. It's his entering into Islam, becoming a Muslim. And all of his other deeds, all of the subsequent deeds, are built upon this one deed. So if we build our deeds on a faulty foundation, on shaky ground, those deeds will not stand. The salat, the fasting, the charity, those deeds will not stand. They will not avail us. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about those who accepted Islam insincerely, أُولَٰئِكَ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ الْخَاسِرُونَ. He says they are those who their deeds are vain. Their deeds will come to naught. Their deeds have no value. Not in this world or in the hereafter. And those, they are the losers. And losers in the Quran, it always means the people who have lost salvation, who have lost their souls, who have no opportunity to be saved. So with that in mind, I'd like us to reflect this morning on an important question that every Muslim should ask themselves min hina ila akhar, from time to time. And that is, why did I become a Muslim? Or if we were born Muslims, why have I chosen to remain a Muslim? Reflect on that. Take a couple minutes and ask yourself. See what answer comes out. Why are you a Muslim? Why? when people ask themselves sincerely, when they ask themselves this question, some of their answers are good. And some of their answers are not so good. If they're sincere and they sincerely ask themselves this question. Some of the not so good answers are Islam is my birthright. Islam is my birthright. I was born a Muslim. I'm a Muslim because that's how it turned out. I was born that way. But the problem with that is that's all it is. They feel like it's in my blood, it's in my veins, it's part of my DNA. I'm Muslim just because that's the way it is, not because I want to be Muslim. Like that colleague of mine who said, I'm Muslim, but I don't believe in it. I mean, that's an oxymoron. I'm Muslim, but I don't believe in it. Then how are you Muslim? Because it's my what? It's my birthright. I was born that way. And so that's where it stops for them. It's like I'm Muslim by virtue of being born Muslim. I'll never stop being Muslim, even if I don't practice Islam. And that's not the way it works, because Islam, Muslim, these are attributive titles. If you practice it, you're a Muslim. If you don't practice it, you're not a Muslim. Bunya al-Islam ala khams. Islam is built upon 5 things. It's not just built upon what? You were born that way. طيب, another not so good reason is that some people, they say, well, all religions are faulty. All religions have faults. And Islam is the one that has the least faults. So I'm Muslim because Islam is what? Is the least faulty of the religions. And this is a concept that you'll find commonly among those people who like to alter Islam. They like to make alterations to Islam, or personalize it. Or they like to make Islam conform to their lifestyle, instead of what? Making their lifestyle conform to Islam. And this is how you get things like Islamic feminism, Islamic or Muslim lesbians and gays. This is how you get that. This is how you get that, because these people come into Islam with what? I looked at all the religions, and Islam is the least of them in terms of faults, but they're all faulty. And so they all can be what? Modified to suit me. Truth is relative. Another not so good reason, I like the Islamic culture. There are things about Islam that interest me, that intrigue me. I like the way, I like their belief in one God. I like how they believe in all of the prophets. I like how in their mosques they don't put any pictures or graven images. I like some things. I like some of the ways that they dress. I like some of the foods that they eat. But the problem with that is that people like this, they tend to practice only what they like, what interests them and intrigues them. And then when there's something that they don't like, something that doesn't suit their fancy, then they don't want to practice that. Because it's all about what? The culture of Islam, the things that are odd or interesting about Islam, but not really about the substance of Islam. It's not, I'm going to take Islam completely, wholly, holistically. La. I'm going to take what is from Islam, what interests me, what intrigues me, what I like. طيب, another not so good reason, everybody else is doing it. Everybody around me is Muslim. So I'm Muslim to run with the pack, to fit in. But the problem with that is that these people only practice Islam when they're in their comfort zone, when they're in their society, when they're in the Islamic environment. And as soon as they leave the Islamic environment, they leave Islam. And we've seen this. Some of you traveled. You've been on those planes coming from a Muslim country to land in New York or to land in D.C., and the women who get on are all covered from head to toe. And then as soon as they say we're approaching LaGuardia were approaching JFK, preparing for landing. All of them rush to the restroom. And they come out looking very what? Western, sometimes revealing more than Western women reveal. Because why? I'm just doing it because everybody does it. Not because I truly believe. Another not so good reason is I did it for my man. I did it for my woman. People accept Islam because they want to be with someone. The man's a Muslim, so the woman becomes Muslim. The woman's a Muslim, and so the man becomes Muslim. But the problem with that is that when things get rocky, or the relationship ends, so does that person's commitment to Islam. These are some of the not so good reasons, just some of them, not an exhaustive list of them, but some of the not so good, insincere reasons why people accept Islam. And if they were sincere with themselves and asked themselves, why are you Muslim? They would answer like this. And they're the same ones who what? Their foundation is what? Shaky. And then as a result, the deeds that they build on that foundation will come to naught. What about some of the good reasons? What are some of the things that we should be saying when we answer that question sincerely? I love Allah, and I want Him to love me. Does that ever occur to us? Do we do it? Did we accept Islam and do we remain Muslim because we really love Allah? We love our Creator. And we just want that love to be reciprocated. I owe it to Allah because of all the kindnesses and gifts He's bestowed upon me, which I cannot enumerate, which I take for granted. I fear His punishment. I recognize my slavery and servitude to Allah. I am His property. How can I not worship Him? Does a broom not sweep when it's in the hands of the one making it go back and forth? I'm no different than the broom. I'm His property. If He says bow, I bow. If He says rise, I rise. If He says stand, I say I stand. If He says jump, I say how high. How about that for an answer? I seek His pleasure and His reward. I want Him to be pleased with me. And I want Him to reward me handsomely with paradise and all of the gifts and bounties and comforts that will be therein. How about He is so magnificent, so powerful, so awesome. Why wouldn't I worship Him? How about these as answers? And which one of us answered in this way? Another question to reflect on. How do I know if I am sincere? How do I know if I accepted Islam for the right reasons? If I remain a Muslim for the right reasons? I'll give you 2 signs. I'm not saying these are the only signs, but I want you to reflect upon these 2 signs. 1, how interested, how eager, how keen are you to learn or be taught your religion? To be told what Allah has commanded and forbidden. How eager are you to know right from wrong? How eager to know what pleases Allah and what displeases Him? Are you eager? Are you looking for that? I just want to know the right thing so I can do it. The wrong thing so I can avoid it. I'm eager to know this. Like the early Muslims, the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet would sit with them and he would say, "Ala ukhbirukum bi akbar al-kabair." Shall I not inform you of the greatest of the major sins? They wouldn't say, "No, we're good. We don't want to know that." Because then it might be something that we like to do and we have to stop. No, they would be like, "Bala ya Rasulullah." Of course, please, don't hesitate. Tell us immediately so we can know. And how many times do you read in the hadith where one of the companions would come to the Prophet and say, "Awsini, counsel me. Alibni, teach me. Dullani ala amalin. Direct me to a deed that I can do it and it will enter me into paradise and push me far away from the fire. Eager, keen. They wanted to know. But nowadays, Muslims have that attitude. Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Because if I know, then I have to act, I have to practice. So don't tell me, oh no, I don't want to hear that. As soon as somebody gets up here and sits in this state, in this place, to open a book, or they go, like they're going to say something about Islam, people do what? They run out. I don't want to hear it. Because then I'll have to act on it. The second indication, how receptive, how well do you receive the information you are taught? How do you respond when you are told this is right and this is wrong? That's a good gauge. Look at the early Muslims and companions. We have the famous hadith of Aisha in Bukhari, when she said that the ayat of hijab were revealed. The ayat telling women about hijab were revealed. They used to wear these aprons. And they did what? They ripped up those aprons and put on Islamically acceptable hijab. Immediately. Immediately. They didn't hesitate. They didn't ask. They didn't know. Immediate response. When the verses which prohibited al-khamr were revealed, we're talking about people who were addicted to wine. They loved wine. But when those ayat were revealed, they went to the street and they took those clay pots that had the wine and they smashed them in the streets so that wine flowed in the streets of Al-Madinah. And we also have the incident, what they call Qadiyat al-Ifk, or Qissat al-Ifk, the incident where the mother of the Muslims, the mother of the believers, Aisha, was slandered. And it happened that one of the culprits, one of the main slanderers, was a relative of hers and her father's, who he was financially supporting. And when he came to know this Abu Bakr, radiallahu anh, he was very angry, and rightfully so. And he said, Wallahi, I will not give him a red cent. I won't give him anything after this day for this. And Allah revealed. Now you got to think about this. You think to yourself, he has every right to take this stance. Godspeed. Totally in favor of what he's saying. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, وَلَا يَأْتَلِ أُولُو الْفَضْلِ مِنْكُمْ وَالسَّعَةِ أَنْ يُؤْتُوا أُولِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَالْمُهَاجِرِينَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلْيَعْفُوا وَلْيَصْفَحُوا أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَنْ يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah revealed, and do not let those amongst you who are virtuous, and they're wealthy, they're affluent, don't let them refuse, swearing that they will not give their closest relatives, those who are poor and needy, and those who have migrated in the way of Allah. Let them instead pardon and forgive. Don't you love that Allah would forgive you? When this verse was read to Abu Bakr, you know what he said? Nah, we want Allah to forgive us. I forgive him. Look at this immediate response. That shows what? That the person accepted Islam for what? For the right reasons. They're truly committed to Allah. They're not doing it for any other consideration other than what? His sake. So this is something that we need to what? Review and revise and look at ourselves. Go home and look in the mirror and ask yourself, why did I accept Islam? And see if your answer falls in the good category or the not so good category. And if it falls in that category, all is not lost. Because as long as you have life in your body, breath in your lungs, you can always do what? You can always jaddid an-niyyah. To jaddid an-niyyah, you can always renew your intention, revise your intention, reassess, correct your intention. And some of the early Muslims, they admitted. You got to figure that in that early period, scholarship and being a scholar was very what? Very trendy. Everybody wanted to be a scholar. Everybody wanted to study the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you had many people who what? They went and tried to get into this profession. And not all of them got into the profession for the right reasons. Because a scholar at that time was like a neurosurgeon today, or, a big-time engineer. These were the people who people looked up to. They were the people who were famous. And so maybe some people got into it for that reason. And so one of the early Muslims, he said, طَلَبْتُ الْعِلْمَ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ. He said, I sought knowledge, I sought scholarship for other than Allah's face. I didn't do it for the right reasons. I had ulterior motives. فَأَبَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا أَن يَكُونَ لَهُ. But Allah refused, except that I did it for His face, which means over time, I changed my intention. I renewed my intention, and I was seeking it for Allah's face. So all is not lost, but we do have to be sincere. We do have to do introspection. We do have to ask ourselves sincerely, why am I Muslim? Why am I doing this? And some of us, I think if we're sincere, will be surprised about the answer. And once you see what the answer is, and you see what category it falls in, then we might have some work to do. And may Allah make us from those people who purify their intentions and die upon Islam sincerely. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.